Struggles with offensive balance for the Tar Heels? Try this on for size. Carolina has been led in scoring the past 4 games by 4 different players. Good luck scouting for that one.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, March 4th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shaden, and you're joining us at the place to get your Carolina content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Hey, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? You ever wonder what could be around the next corner? Why don't you take the Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder or Armada and go find your next big adventure? Check all of them out today at nissanusa.com. Hey, let's start off with just a couple updates following this game. North Carolina beats NC State on Saturday 79-70. They run their record up to 23-6 overall. 15-3 in ACC play. The Tar Heels have dominated this series. They are 38-6 against the Wolfpack in the last 44 games. This was a quad 3 win. NC State, that's just where it's at right now for them. As of the net refresh on Sunday morning, Carolina fell one spot to 10th. Part of the good news is that Georgia Tech's win over Florida State on Saturday did flip that loss from a quad 3 to a quad 2. So as of Sunday, at least, Carolina has no more quad 3 losses. That's great news. We'll have to keep monitoring that, of course, as this final couple weeks goes on. In terms of ACC stuff, Carolina still holds a 1-game lead over Duke. Duke plays at NC State tonight, so we'll know more after that, even heading into Tuesday night's game against Notre Dame. A Duke loss means that a Carolina win against Notre Dame would clinch the outright ACC regular season championship. A Duke win means that Carolina could clinch at least a share of the regular season championship. So we'll see that. You got questions about the tiebreaker, by the way? I recorded a video, uploaded that to YouTube. It's also on my Twitter. Go check that out. I explain more about who gets the 1 seed and who gets the 2. Ken Palm refresh. As I checked it literally right before we started recording, the Tar Heels are 9th overall, 26th in offensive efficiency, and 6th in defensive efficiency. Great stuff there. Before we get into talking more about the Tar Heels, can I just say one thing about the single biggest sports story this entire weekend? It was not LeBron's 40,000 points milestone, although that's cool. It was nothing that happened on a men's college basketball court. The biggest story in all of sports this weekend was Jae'lyn Clark becoming the all-time Division I scoring leader, men or women. She needed 18 points to pass Pete Maravich, Pistol Pete, on Sunday. She did so with 2 technical free throws right before halftime to get to 36-68. She finished the game with 35 points. So now for her career has 36-85. More importantly for her team, Iowa was 6th in the nation. They beat number 2 Ohio State on Senior Day. And people get all this out there about her just being a scorer and a chucker and all that. Homegirl had 9 assists. I don't want to hear any of that language. But here's another part of why I want to bring that up. One of the best parts of this entire thing for me is that as she was being interviewed after the game, Jae'lyn Clark basically said some version of, part of the main reason I do this is to inspire young girls. And my whole family was sitting in the living room as we watched that. My wife and my 8-year-old son and my 4-year-old daughter, who turns 5 later this week, actually. My little daughter heard Jae'lyn Clark say that about inspiring little girls. And she got this massive, big grin on her face. And she goes, "That's me." Dude, it doesn't get any better than that. Thank you, Jae'lyn Clark, for how you play this game, how you work tirelessly, and thank you for the role model you set for my little daughter and young women and young men, by the way, all over the world. Well done, young lady. Okay, let's get back to this Carolina game. We're talking offensive balance. Now, I know after Monday night's 42-point performance from RJ Davis over Miami, there's all this consternation because no other Tar Heels scored in double digits. Where's the offensive balance? What's going on? Why can't anybody else score? Can we zoom out and look back at the big picture? Because here's what you need to remember, all of us. I say you, but all of us need to remember this. In Carolina's now last 4 games, 4 different Tar Heels have led them in scoring. Going back to Virginia Tech, it was Armando Bacot. Going back to Virginia last weekend, it was Cormac Ryan. Obviously, it was RJ Davis against Miami. And then this weekend, again, or Saturday against NC State, it was Harrison Ingram. What more offensive balance do you want? Now, I know the issue is that within that specific game, there was not great offensive balance. But again, I don't know how many times I said this last week. That's just RJ Davis going off. And sometimes when you got a superstar on your team, that's going to happen. So enjoy it instead of griping about it, I think is where I'm at with that. In fact, in this game Saturday, the Tar Heels scored 26 points before RJ scored a single bucket. Because this dude is committed to whatever I got to do for my team. If Miami's going to let me go off, I'm going to go off. If NC State's going to slow me down and do other stuff, fine. I'm going to dive on the floor after loose balls. I'm going to tie for the team lead in rebounds with 7. I'm going to get 5 assists and just 1 turnover in this game. And oh, by the way, still pour in 14 points when it's all said and done. I love it, man. And to boot, that's 4 of the starters. The only one I didn't name is Elliot Cadeau. But good grief. So much of that is because of what he's doing as a facilitator that he doesn't always have to be putting up the points, although he did get 15, the second on the team on Saturday against NC State. Elliot's been doing a really, really nice job in his role as a facilitator. He's had at least 4 assists in each of his last 6 games. His assist to turnover ratio in that span, 2.44 assists to every 1 turnover. How about let's just cut it down to the last 3 games? 3.6 assists to every 1 turnover. That's phenomenal stuff. And oh, by the way, keep in mind, what's Carolina on streak-wise right now? A 4-game winning streak. That just so happens to coincide with this diversity of leading scorers. Really, really, really good stuff there. Now, let's look at the big picture balance, because clearly there is big picture offensive balance. Any of these starting 5 guys can do it, can lead the team in scoring on any given game. Yes, and that includes Elliot, even though he wasn't in this list of the last 4. But beyond that, you sprinkle in Seth Trimble and the Jae'lyns doing what they're going to do, and just a little bit of Paxton Wojcik and Zayden High, who was sick on Saturday, apparently. Hopefully he's doing better, and some James Okonkwo sprinkled in every now and again. This mix is good, y'all. I'm just telling you, this mix is real, real good. But then let's think about the game-specific balance, because that is part of this too. It's not just about the big picture balance, because I do want to hear the offensive balance in terms of game to game. That's what happened in this game. Sure, Harrison Ingram led the way and had a great game. 22 points on 8 of 14 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, had 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and had 2 big boy dunks. I mean, my dude got up. I think it was the first one was a pass from RJ, if I remember correctly, and Harrison just had this little lane on the right side of the rim, and he got up. And then his other one was also kind of an assist from RJ, but this one was a missed shot that Harrison got right to the front of the rim. I think Jalen Washington was right beside him, but Harrison got the tip dunk, and that gave Carolina a 5-point lead in the first half. We won't talk about the next 4 minutes plus that happened right after that, but still, Harrison had that. But listen to the rest of this balance as well. Cadeau, 15 points, 5 of 7 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. That's 7 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal that we talked about. RJ Davis, sure, it wasn't a great shooting day, 4 of 11, but he had 14 points, hit 2 threes, 4 of 5 from the free throw line himself, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 turnover, and a block. Come on. RJ, Mondo, same kind of thing. Not a very efficient shooting day, 4 of 12, but he was 5 of 5 from the free throw line. What a rebound after 1 of 6 on Monday. And he had 7 boards. Cormac Ryan, while he didn't shoot well, he did have a 3, or, while he didn't shoot much, I guess I should say, really, because he was 1 of 3 from the game. He just didn't take many shots. But his 3-pointer started off the run in the second half that we'll get to in just a little bit. Also, he was tied for the team lead, despite not scoring much, tied for the team lead in plus minus at plus 17. Did have 2 free throws, 2 rebounds, and a block on a great chase down play where he could have given up and just came back and got it. So everyone is contributing offensively to what happened. And this is exactly what you need. 5 starters that can take over any given game in their role. In the case of the last 4 games specifically, catch this. Let me put it to you this way. A lead facilitator, 4 players around him, each capable of being the leading scorer, and 3 reliable players off the bench who have all been at or near the top of team plus minus very recently. That's a mixture for success. And here's what I love. It's not just you and I seeing this. The guys get this too. Let me give you a quote from Armando Bacot and a quote from Harrison Ingram. Armando, this is post-game after NC State. Quote, "It really just speaks to our team. Harrison, he goes out there and scores the season high and just shows, sure, you can go blitz RJ, but we've got Harrison who can knock down shots. And Elliot played big. You can double me. Fine. RJ will play big. You can shrink the floor on Harrison. We've got so many different guys that can step up." I think that really just showed today really how versatile our team is. Me and RJ, I shoot 4 of 12. RJ shoots 4 of 11. But we've got guys like Harrison stepping up and Elliot playing a big role. So it just shows you how good of a team we really are. Harrison Ingram was asked, quote, "You guys have shown you can win when RJ goes off, and today you showed you win with a lot of different guys contributing offensively. How important is that moving forward?" Here's Harrison, quote, "We're a complete team," right out of the gate. That was his first 4 words. "We have 14 guys that are all really, really good. I would say we have 8 or 9 starters that all would start on 99% of the teams in college basketball. Having that, it's so much easier. Because if I have an off night or RJ has an off night or Armando has an off night, if teams are doubling, you can't really double us because there's so many other weapons that we have," end quote. So what does all this mean? That means, let me say 2 things. Number 1, the players are more concerned with team success than my points or my stats or my name and lights for the world to see. Because that's going to come if you're winning. These guys are more concerned with these W's, however they get them, whoever's scoring, whoever's doing what. It doesn't matter as long as we get the win. Number 2, what does this mean from what you just heard from Armando and Harrison? They are willing and able to make in-game adjustments. Sure, we got a plan coming in. Sure, we are ready and able to execute that plan coming in, but we'll also be able to adjust based on what's happening in a game. It's not just like, oh, you've cut off RJ. We're done. I guess we lose this game. No. Cormac's hot. Feed him. Give him the basketball. Mondo's getting double. Cool. He's going to be a facilitator and let the other guys cook. Whatever it is, these guys can recognize it in game, make the adjustments, and go from there because anybody can beat you. It's just like we had talked about, got to make somebody other than DJ Horne beat you for NC State. They weren't as capable of it. If another team is saying that about Carolina, make somebody else other than RJ Davis beat you. Fine. Here's 25 from Armando. Fine. Here's 22 from Harrison. Cool. Here's Cormac Ryan leading the way against Virginia. Awesome. Here's freshman Elliot Cadeau facilitating and distributing and getting 15 points of his own. Good luck, folks, trying to shut down the Tar Heels. Well, all that said, the ending of the first half was a yikes. But boy, did the Heels make up for it in the second half. We're going to talk about that flip coming up in just a second. First, let me tell you, this episode's brought to you by Nissan. Hey, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Do you ever wonder what could be coming up around the next corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. Let me tell you first about the 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's perfect for city driving and for great escapes. If you need something, just call on the class exclusive built-in Google Assistant because gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 24 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Or how about the one that would be perfect for the Shade family, the 24 Nissan Pathfinder. It's got room for up to 8, expansive cargo capacity, and advanced 4x4 capability, available 4x4 capability, with over 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing capacity. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is right there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. That ending to the first half was pretty scary on Saturday. The way the ball was bouncing in for NC State, I feared it was just going to be like one of those days where it's like the banked in threes. Georgia Tech, was Syracuse the other one that did that, or was it Clemson? I don't know. It was two of those three losses, right? It was just like, oh boy, there you go. That's it. I get it. It's one of those days. NC State ended the first half on a 14-1 run that came right after that second dunk by Harrison Ingram I talked about. They take an 8-point halftime lead on that little DJ Horne step back against Paxton Wojcik to end the half. And Horne and his teammates, they're down there celebrating by their bench. He's rocking the baby, putting Carolina to sleep, so he thinks. And that's it, and that's all, apparently, because I said this on the live postcast. Apparently, we're only playing 20 minutes today, boys, but nah. This time, they decided to let them go ahead and play the second half because a basketball game in college is 40 minutes long. What do you know? And sure enough, the Tar Heels were ready to turn a little something around. But let's not forget, RJ Davis only had 2 points. 2 points at halftime. And then it seems like it's snowballing because Carolina starts the second half with an RJ miss, kind of missed badly off to the right side. And then on the other end, Casey Morsell hits this little turnaround in the lane. And now the lead the run has extended to 16-1. NC State has a 10-point lead at 47-37. That's at the 19:30 mark of the second half. I want to mark that because from there, Cormac Ryan hits a three that ignites an 11-1 run for Carolina to tie it just 3 minutes and 31 seconds later. That's right. Carolina's down 10. These guys are all hot and bothered, apparently. All Carolina's worried about is getting back in the game, which they do just over 3.5 minutes later. Which, by the way, that tie was on that ridiculous kind of scoop shot from Elliot Cadeau as he's falling down. Didn't make the free throw to give Carolina the lead, but that's okay because they get it back just a moment later as State made 1 of 2 at the line, and then RJ comes down and hits a three to give Carolina their first lead in a little bit. And that makes the run an extended 14-2 run. And guess what? From that moment, after that RJ Davis three, the Tar Heels never again trailed. I know there's like some down the very stretch of the game, Carolina had built out the bigger lead, State cut it down. But hear me say that Carolina going from 8 down to all that way up and never trailing again from this moment, because State could have bounced back. Carolina was closing in this game. I hear it. I know there's the stall conversations and all that. Great, fine, whatever. But you got to look at the big picture of this and recognize what Carolina did to turn this thing around. What a difference a half makes. NC State, first half numbers. You ready? They were +8. They shot 58% from the field. They shot 64% from three. That's 7 of 11. Keep in mind, Miami was 8 of 13 in the first half from three on Monday night. Carolina's got to get something figured out there, by the way. We'll see what happens with Notre Dame tomorrow. And NC State, first half, only 2 turnovers. Let's contrast that with the second half numbers. Shall we, friends? Because in the second half, NC State was -17. In the second half, Carolina held NC State to 22% shooting, 6 of 27. Again, remember, they were 58% in the first half. First half, 64% from three. Second half, 25% from three, just 2 of 8. And instead of only 2 turnovers, 7 turnovers in the second half. And this is a team that does not turn the ball over. I'm just telling you that right now. After Morsell hit that shot to kick off the second half, NC State missed their next 15 field goal attempts. And by the way, DJ Horne, that was the key figure to shut down. As I said a little bit ago, got to make someone else beat you. Carolina did not make someone else beat them in the first half. In the first half, he was 7 of 12 from the field, 2 of 3 from three, no free throw attempts, 16 points, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Well, Carolina said no more in the second half. Leaky Black wasn't walking through the door, but kudos to Cormac Ryan and Seth Trimble for shutting him down. In the second half, DJ Horne, 1 of 7, 0 for 1 from 3, 2 of 4 from the free throw line, just 4 total points, 0 assists, and 2 turnovers. So, DJ Horne, when you were rocking that baby to sleep, I think you were rocking yourself to sleep, bro. Get out of here with that. Not only those things, Carolina also flipped the turnover battle and the points off of turnovers in the second half. This is part of NC State's identity, winning the turnover battle, and Carolina beat them at it. Way to go, Tar Heels. In this game, first half, Carolina had 5 turnovers, NC State 2, but the big number was that NC State led in points off of turnovers 13-2. I mean, they did a great job turning those Carolina turnovers into points. But the second half, Carolina was the team that only committed 3 turnovers. Meanwhile, State had those 7 that we talked about. And this time, Carolina dominated these second chance points, or not second chance, excuse me, points off of turnovers 10-2. Way to go, Carolina, flipping that. Big picture, look at this. NC State is 9th in the nation season long with a turnover percentage of just 13.7%. But Carolina does pretty well themselves. They're 31st in the nation with a turnover percentage of 14.5%. So, I mean, Carolina's kind of right there. But for this game, they were the ones that were the victors in the turnover battle. But here's what's cool for Carolina as a team, by the way. You know, I've been talking about this assist to turnover ratio. The top 6 in terms of minutes played all have a positive assist to turnover ratio. If the season ended today, it's not because Carolina's going wacky with their assists. It's because their turnovers are way down. If the season ended today, this would be Carolina's lowest turnover percentage since at least the 1998-99 season, and the only time in that span under 15%. That's really good stuff by Carolina. So in the second half, as Carolina flipped all this, NC State scored only 25 points. By the way, they had 45 at halftime. They're on pace for 90. They wind up with just 70 because of what Carolina did in the second half, holding them instead of a points per percentage of 1.4 something like it was in the first half. Their points per possession in the second half was 0.7 something. Much, much better. Now, here's the one thing that I think we're all in very much agreement with, and you know, the question I've got quite a bit. Where is that for 40 minutes? Why wasn't this happening in the first half? Was it a lack of preparation? Was it a lack of intensity? What does Carolina need to do to get themselves there? And I think that's the question that's got to be answered down the stretch here. And just one of the few things that Carolina does still need to get ironed out is delivering that level of energy for a full 40 minutes. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Now, RJ Davis, Armando Bacot, Tar Heel legends, and they are now together in some very elite company. Plus, in addition to that, I've got the rest of the Four Corners recap, the shady stat of the game, and a very quick weekend whip around for you, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, North Carolina, the wait is almost over. A week from today, on March 11th, you'll finally be able to bet on all your favorite teams and all your favorite sports when FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, comes to the Tar Heel state. With FanDuel, there's tons of ways for you to get in on the action. You can bet on everything from the money line to over-unders to which team will win this year's Tobacco Road Rivalry Part 2 coming up on Saturday. All of this on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, with live betting, you can even pick which player will put up the next bucket or the one after that. Come see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on so you can be the first to know when FanDuel goes live in North Carolina. Again, that's FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, Four Corners recap. Let's get right into it. Number 1, this one is not game specific, but this is a big picture thing, big enough that it's worth a shout out right now. RJ had 14 points. RJ Davis had 14 points on Saturday, which moved him into sole possession of 10th place on the all-time North Carolina scoring list, breaking his tie with the great Brad Daugherty. Well, that by itself is awesome. What an accomplishment for RJ Davis. But here's even more why I bring it up. Armando Bacot right now is 3rd on that very same list, meaning that this team boasts 2 of the top 10 scorers in Carolina history. And I know sometimes you get something like that and say, this team boasts 2 players that went on to become top 10 scorers in Carolina history. No, this is much cooler than that. Literally right now, these guys are already currently on the top 10 scoring list in Carolina history. That's what we're talking about. Impressive, impressive stuff. So, folks, it's a moment to also remind you to capture every one of these moments well. We're watching Tar Heel legends, and you don't want to miss any moment of it. For Armando Bacot, this is the last ride. For RJ Davis, we wait to see, but it very well could be the last ride. So next up on that scoring list, what's coming next? Well, Armando has 2,216 points, needs just 75 to pass Phil Ford for second place. RJ has 1,926. He needs 49 to pass Antoine Jameson, moving into ninth. Also, he just needs 74 points to become the 8th ever Tar Heel to score 2,000. Wondering about how far, because Armando's not moving any further than second. Tyler Hansbrough's so far out of reach, it's insane. But for RJ, there's more room to keep growing. To give you an idea of how far he could get, at his current scoring average is 21.4. Let me just give you three different, if he plays this many more games and scores at his current average. So Carolina, at a minimum, has 4 games left this season. 2 regular season, 1 ACC tournament, 1 NCAA tournament. That would be 85.6 more points, which would give him 2011 or thereabouts, which would put him in 7th, passing Antoine Jameson, Larry Miller, and Charles Scott. I mean, these names, y'all, this is crazy. Let's give it a middle ground. Say RJ plays 7 more games this season at his scoring average. That would give him 149.8 more points. Let's call it 2,075. That would put him in 5th place, adding Al Wood and Lenny Rosenbluth, both of those guys that he would then pass. Or how about a maximum 11 games left this season? 2 regular season, 3 ACC tournament, and 6 NCAA tournament. That would give him about 235 more points, which for his career, he'd have 2161. That would put him in 4th place, passing Sam Perkins, meaning this team could have 2 top 5 or maybe even top 4 scorers on it in Carolina history. Folks, that's insane. Also, by the way, RJ now has 92 3-pointers he's made this season alone. He is moving very close to breaking Justin Jackson's all-time single-season 3-point record. Number 2 on the Four Corners recap. One of the other critical things, in addition to containing DJ Horne, was shutting down the other DJ Burns. And I give this one a standalone because he's this big guy with a big personality. When you're in Raleigh for a game, the Wolfpack faith will just go bonkers every time he touches the ball because it's an event and it's a whole thing. You remember that? You remember how rabid they were when Carolina played there back in January? So it felt like it was going to be a game where he was going to have a moment. Started off 2 of 2 from the field in just 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Had 4 of State's first 8 points. It's like, okay, all right. We can survive that, but maybe DJ Horne's not having a game as well. Well, that wasn't the case because he was having a game. But here's the good news. After that 2 for 2 start, DJ Burns, the rest of the game, the final 37 minutes of this game, was just 1 of 7 from the field. That's right. Not only did he only hit 1 more shot, but he only took 7 more. Armando did a really nice job walling him off, staying in front of him, keeping verticality, doing all these things to not pick up silly, cheap fouls. Burns is not much of a rebounder, but still, he only had 1 in this game. He had 0 free throw attempts, and he's known for being a facilitator. That's the thing that scares me most about his game is getting the ball into the post and then him passing around. And he did have that one beautiful, I mean, it was a great look, but that was his only assist in this game. Not only that, Carolina got him in foul trouble, and he didn't foul out, but he did have 4 fouls. And here's what I loved. All 4 of them were from 4 different Tar Heels. It wasn't just Armando. Armando drew the first. Seth Trimble drew the second. Later in the second half, he had to go to the bench. And then in the second half, Elliot Cadeau drew number 3, sent him to the bench for a little bit. He checked in, Burns did, with about 12 and a half to go. And then with 11 and a half to go, just a minute later, Harrison Ingram drew number 4, sent him right on back to the bench from whence he came. And here's the other great news. All 4 of those were shooting fouls and sent Carolina to the free throw line. Listen to DJ Burns' second half box score. He played just 4 minutes and 50 57 seconds. He was 0 for 3 from the field, didn't take a free throw, 1 rebound, 2 fouls, 0 fouls drawn, 0 points, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, no turnovers, but fine, whatever, and -7. Carolina absolutely shut DJ Burns down after the first 3 minutes of the game. Fantastic job. Number 3 in the Four Corners recap. The importance of the free throw line in this game. Carolina led in total 20. They were 23 of 27 from the field, which is great percentage. You'll take that, like 10 percentage points over their season average, while holding NC State to 11 of 16 from the free throw line. So once again, Carolina makes more than their opponent attempts. But critically, in the first half, NC State didn't even attempt a free throw, 0. Meanwhile, Carolina went 10 times and hit 9 of them. And it was a bunch of the guys that often struggle and don't have great free throw percentages stepping up and making them. I was so happy for those guys. So encouraged to see them do it. Harrison was perfect. Armando really made up for his performance against Miami. Really, really, really good stuff. And then obviously in the second half, it wasn't just about the getting to the free throw line, but getting the opposition in trouble. Obviously, we talked about DJ Burns. The Tar Heels fouled out Casey Morsell. I think all 5 were in the second half, by the way. I mean, it's just really, really good stuff. Number 4 in our Four Corners recap. Just this one's actually a little bit of a Carolina had a season low offensive rebounds, just 5, while State, meanwhile, had 9 of them and went through some stretches in this game where Carolina, it just felt like they could not get end a defensive possession with a rebound. I remember 2 moments in the first half where they got an offensive rebound, NC State, and I think both were Middlebrooks, and both wound up with 3-pointers for NC State. In the second half, they had that stretch around the 13-minute mark, I think it was, where they're just getting rebound after rebound after rebound, and Carolina just kept on trying. So the good news is that Carolina actually won the second chance points 9-8, despite trailing in offensive rebounds. And once again, they won the overall rebounding battle. That's now 18 straight games doing so in 25 of the 29 games in total this season. So great stuff there from the Tar Heels. Just needed to do better work on their own offensive glass and in ending their defensive possessions with rebounds. So we'll keep an eye on that tomorrow night against Notre Dame. Shady stat of the game. I want to give props to Jason Taylor, a.k.a. Chef Flurry, on the Locked On Tar Heels Discord for catching this one. Talking more about free throws, but an individual player. Elliot Cadeau, month to month of his freshman season, his free throw percentage has grown literally every month. Catch this. November, 55.6% from the free throw line, 15 to 27. Into December, from 55.6 to 66.7. From December to January, 66.7 to 68%. From January to February, 68 up to 71. And then from February to March, 71 up to 80. Now, obviously, this was the first game in March, and so he was 4 of 5, and that's a small sample size. But still, just that progression throughout the course of this season, you'll love to see it. And I would love to see what happens in April, because Carolina needs to get there, right? Let's make it happen. No, seriously, Elliot Cadeau, great stuff at the free throw line, man. Just, you love to see that growth. All right, quickly, the weekend whip around, and then we'll get out of here. Women's basketball. Woo! Got that win over Duke on Sunday, 63-59. Great recovery after losing at Boston College on Thursday. It took an Alyssa Utsby block in the closing seconds to win this thing. But boy, Carolina held on. Duke just made push after push in this game. Carolina got a double-digit lead in the first quarter. Duke pushes back to take a halftime lead. Carolina extends back out. Duke pushes again down the closing seconds. The free throw line almost got the Tar Heels, but they held on and did just enough. 35 combined points for Deja Kelly and Alyssa Utsby. I want to shout out Alexandra Zelaya, who had 2 massive 3-pointers that she made in the second half. Great stuff there. Let's get the tennis teams. Men's tennis. Double wins this weekend. They beat Georgia Tech on Friday, who's number 37, 4-3. It was a tight one. Carl Poling finished it off at number 4 singles in a third set tiebreaker. Really stressful stuff there. And then the Tar Heels beat number 68 Clemson on Sunday, 4-1. Women's tennis, double shutout this weekend. Saturday versus Boston College 7-0 and Sunday versus Syracuse 7-0. Great stuff from the women there. Let's go to the Diamond. Baseball first, then softball. Carolina baseball was playing Princeton this weekend. Sweep! A combined weekend score in the 3 games of 36-10. Friday was 12-2. They scored 11 in the first inning. It was like I hadn't even finished my morning coffee yet, and the Tar Heels had put 11 runs across the plate. And then Saturday 11-2, Sunday 13-6. Man, they were rolling. Great stuff. Softball went 3-1 this weekend. Beat Ryder 8-0 Friday. Lost to Rutgers 0-4 on Saturday. And then Sunday, 2 more shutouts. Lafayette 13-0 and Campbell 6-0. Great stuff there. Lacrosse teams. Men lost to Princeton on Friday 9-15, but rebounded to beat Penn on Sunday 13-9. Unfortunately, the women lost to Notre Dame, number 5 in the nation, on Saturday 5-7. Gymnastics had that quad meet in Nebraska this weekend. They lost to Nebraska, but beat the other 2 teams, Illinois State and Southeast Missouri State. So, there's your weekend whip around. Lots of great action going on, man. I love this time of the year when the winter sports are overlapping with the spring sports and everything's happening. It's great, and you love to see it. That's it for today's episode. Thanks so much again for joining us. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, come on, man. Well, you need to be in there, especially in Duke Week leading up to that. You're not going to want to miss out on that or any of the postseason happenings that go on. The link's in the show notes. It's free to join. Seriously, come on. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, come do that. The link is just right there if you're watching on YouTube. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button so we know you were here. Hit that little bell so you get a notification when we go live after games. You don't want to miss those, like tomorrow night after Notre Dame or Saturday after Duke. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We're reveling in some victories. You love to see it. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.